next segment we're about to get into is really special to me because, as Anissa said, it's about family. And it's about telling us personal stories that I hope can inspire and change you all's lives. So without further ado, I want to welcome to the world, he's a financial advisor, but to me, he's just my big brother. I want to welcome Robert Kirkland II to the stage. What's up, brother?
What's up, Cam? How you doing, man?
And I'm blessed, man. How you feeling? Welcome to Atlanta.
No, man, this is lovely. I mean, been here probably 3 or 4 times since last year, so I'm feeling more like a second home type deal, but it's lovely coming out here all the time.
Dope. So for those of you who might be wondering why I wanted my brother to speak here, I want to get into this concept of financial literacy. And I thought it was very important to have this conversation, not only because it's something that we all need to get a grasp of, we all need to understand the importance of it more now than ever, I would say, in this economy and everything that's happening. But I also want to show another thing that I hope you guys catch on to is just the power of individualism and how no matter what trailblazing path you're on or no matter even how you started, there's multiple ways to success and multiple ways to get there. And I think the dynamic of our relationship, the way we were brought up, our story, we've taken very different paths to where we want to go. And it's just a blessing to be able to sit next to you and to be proud of what you've accomplished. And I know you're proud of what I've accomplished, although we took different paths. So I just want to give the audience a little insight into my world, to my story, and get them to have them get to know you and everything that you have going on as well. Is that cool?
Yeah, man, that's really good. Again, guys, my name is Robert Kirkland. Super dope and proud to be here with Cam. You know, I would say, have done things differently, but really still successful. And so the first time to be able to be on the stage with Cam at his conference and be a part of such an amazing event is really great. And Cam, you've been doing great work for as long as I've known it coming out of college, and I'm super proud of it. And yeah, so today we're gonna talk a little bit about what we talk about at Christmas, at Thanksgiving, and I'm hopeful that today's conversation provides value to everyone here and gives you a sense of kind of what we talk about on a regular basis, but what we do and moving forward.
Bet. So to add context to the room, can you define what it means or what the idea of a financial advisor is? What is a financial advisor?
Yeah, right. So very, corporate jargon, it's a job, right? But to the core of it, what we do as professionals is really help individuals align their resources with their goals, right? My job is to help you make better financial decisions today so that your future life is rewarded or at least proud of. And so we look at things like, investing in the market, putting money together for your retirement plan, helping your young kids, put together money for their college. We do all those different things, right? But to the core of it is what's important to you, what do your resources look like, and how do we connect those dots so that, again, your future self is so much prouder.
Love that. And let's get back to like the origin story. Obviously, we grew up everywhere together, and we were blessed. I think I heard you say this recently, and I say it all the time. I was blessed to not be raised by 2 parents, but 4 parents. Our parents split early, but then they also remarried and added new additions to the family that just brought even more love and support to our upbringing, which I'm very proud of. But what were some of your first introductions to money? I know we both had jobs at 16. We couldn't wait to get a job. But what was some of your first introductions to money?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, 15, 16, you get your driver's license and you go get a job, right? And I think our parents really brought that to us. Like Cam said, our folks, they worked at 9 to 5. So we understood the importance of getting up, being on time, and going out there and earning. And so for me, getting that first job was really a matter of just pride and just saying, hey, look, I've created or got to a level of independence. But then it became, what are we solving for? So before I went to college in 2004, my car that my dad gave me was not doing so well. I needed a new car. And so that summer job helped pay for and buy, my next car. And so, yeah, I mean, having both parents, having the addition of 2 additional parents, that gave us, a whole bunch of different ways to look at life. Whether you're looking at it from a rigid standpoint, my dad's military, he knows I get up and go to work, right? And then mom is more entrepreneurial spirit, so we kind of took the blend of both of them, and that's what you see up here, really, right? You know, more rigid, more creative.
Yeah, I would say that. I think that matches for sure. So when you first had your job at 16, I know my first job was at the sneaker store, and I remember you were was Baskin Robbins your first job?
Yeah, for the first real job, I worked at a restaurant for a minute, family-owned business,
I
and
remember that.
I left that within like 2 or 3 weeks.
2-3 weeks, man. No work ethic, man. But no, at your job. So what were some of the first things you did with your check? Were you thinking about saving money back then, or were you blowing it?
So again, great upbringing, but I would say that there's a lot of opportunity in all of our growth, right? My parents, they showed by example, but I don't recall having those exact, conversations around saving and investing, right? And so that's definitely something that I take delight with my 2 young children here, figuring out how can we show them that, this is the way of, grinding and going out there, but what do you do once you get there, right? And so Cam, first, at 16, it's really just creating a space where I had my own, and I didn't have to ask for anything. I've been really independent in that space. And then naturally, once I identified what I wanted, the job created that space to be able to go out there and buy it.
Yeah, I feel like I was just spending my money on shoes and clothes and who knows what. I feel like I definitely was a late bloomer to understanding money. I think I can remember my dad using a phrase that money just burns a hole in my pocket. And I would just try to spend it faster than I could make it. And what were some early lessons for you that you might have witnessed or saw that might have triggered you to be a little bit more financially responsible?
Yeah, what I would say, I think the gentleman Jay said it, a lot of your idols or people that you look up to, a lot of times that is more facade than actuality. I've been blessed to support thousands of individuals, whether they were buying a home or what I'm doing now, helping them with their investments, where, a lot of us are just trying to make it, right? And so for me, it became really evident that it could not be for just show, but I had to put some meaning behind it. So actually, doing the things that I'm teaching folks to do. So buying my home at 23, right? Getting into investing early. Those are the things that I felt like needed to shift from just what I show people, but naturally what I'm doing. And yeah, unfortunately, there's a lot of individuals that are doing great work, but then they don't have perhaps a plan behind it, and that could disrupt the long-term growth of things.
So you decided when we were young, I know you were looking at potentially going to Hampton, and then you decided to go to Towson University, an amazing school in Baltimore. When you were making some of those decisions that obviously laid the foundation for who you are today, what went into those decisions, and what do you think you gained from possibly staying at home and closer to family in terms of during that phase of you really discovering adulthood?
Yeah, Cam and I, we talk a lot about the concept or what we both got out of our college experience. Cam going to a prestigious, HBCU, myself being at a PWI. And for me, it was more comfort, right? I grew up in an environment that, I had everything I needed. I wasn't having to sacrifice on certain things. And not to suggest that HBCUs are not providing, the college students all that they desire, right? But there were some huge discrepancies back in 2004 that I felt like I wasn't willing to sacrifice. And that actually was good for me because I was able to make a stand then that I wanted a certain thing and I was going to accept it and expect it. And that is kind of how I shifted in what I do today. There's certain things that I would like, and if it's not there, either I figure out how to create it or I move to a different direction.
And when you first got out of college, you started working around money. You were working for like a loan company. What was exactly were you doing when you first got out of college?
Yeah, so, being back home, that did provide another safety net for me. I had a network with me. My parents were already doing things, so I was able to just reach into their network and say, hey, I need a job. Who do you know? How can you help me? And so my first couple of years in college, I was working as an intern for a mortgage company. And so that's kind of where things started for me, understanding, how individuals were able to grow their wealth through real estate. And that really changed my whole approach on how I moved forward from there.
And long as you've been of age to do this, you and your wife who's here, you guys have always been adventurous with businesses and exploring ways to make money or to try to make money. Where do you think that spirit came from?
Yeah, I would tell everybody here that, if you're relying on just what you know personally, you're going to fall short, right? And so my wife and I, every year, we make an important factor of our lives to ensure that we're consuming, different things, whether that was different books, podcasts, anything that can enhance our own understanding. And so when I was in college, I think I read a book. It was a millionaire real estate, or make $1 million in real estate, something early. And that book allowed me to say, okay, it's a different way of approaching life, but I like it, right? And so every year we're taking down, I think I've taken down 3 books so far this year. And I'm looking at Audible, right? I'm not, if I can go to the gym, I can go on a ride to school with my kids, I have it playing in the background. But the books that I'm reading now, I just listened to the Black Power Scorecard by Andre Perry, the guy out of Prince George's County. I listened to a book called Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. And then I'm looking at a book right now called The Art of Spending from Morgan Housel. And again, these books are all different: financial services, how to manage your own personal life. But I'm always consuming, and Keelan is the same. And I think that's given us perspective of, okay, I've read and seen this, and I understand it, so let's explore it at that point.
Love that. So when you got out of college and, you were in a relationship and got married pretty young to the standards of, I guess, today's time, what were some early money management or money saving tactics? Like sometimes you will hear people say, if you can't buy it twice, don't buy it. If you can't do this, don't do that. And I know when I'm around you, you guys consult over the smallest of purchases, and I'd be like, what are you doing? Like, let's just go do that. Like, you nitpick over $100 sometimes, and I'm like, man, we gonna go do that. But what were some early things that you all established as young, married couple that really set yourself up for the financial freedom that you always talk about?
Yeah, I think early on it was communicating, right? Having some level of shared alignment. We wanted to, own a home. Okay, what do we got to do to make that happen, right? When we had our daughter, we wanted more space, so we had to buy another home. So it's really just communicating to each other on a more regular basis. I think when you approach finance with your significant other or your spouse in a more rigid manner, that sometimes won't work. You have to do what's best for you both, right? And so there's been times where, she's made more money than me and vice versa. And so we had to navigate, how do we approach that this time around? She's got her business, I'm in corporate, and then we flip it. She's in corporate, I have a business. So there's never going to be a one-size-fits-all model, Cam, but I think that, if you communicate with each other and you have shared goals, that plays a big part in what's possible.
Yeah, so for years, I feel like we've had conversations, and now I'm letting you manage some of my finances. I'm happy about that. But for years, I would always push back when you would tell me like, yo, you should be doing this and this with your money. And I will always tell you my biggest investment is myself. And I'd rather just, instead of putting in the stock market, I'd rather invest in Cam Kirk Studios, or I'd rather invest in this other idea. Let's bring them into a little bit of that conversation. What would you say to someone that might have that same opinion of like liquidity and I want to keep my money or I want to hold my money? What would you say to someone to convince them that, it might be more beneficial? If back in the day when we were having NVIDIA conversations or Visa stock conversations, and I look at what that money is now, if I would have just put it there, what would you say to someone that is considering, should they continue to invest in their own company, or should they diversify possibly into other means like stock market or any other financial institutions?
Yeah, and we're battling that with you still, right? And I get it, right? You know, as someone that owns a business, it is extremely important to continue to flourish and to pour into that business. But what I look at when I think about financial advice, A, is personal, right? At the end of the day, what works for me will not always work for everybody else. But I'm big on, you know, yes, investing in your company, but there are other companies that are also doing great. And why not be able to benefit from their hard work and effort as well? That's what the stock market is. You know, in essence, you are a minority shareholder in some of the greatest companies in the world, conceptually speaking. And so when you can look at ways to take less risk off, meaning if investing in your business is a single source investment, right? Be that as it may, it could be a powerful one. But when you can afford to take some risk off and apply it to other areas, other companies that are also doing great work, it could create an avenue where you can multiply your money. And so, yeah, you know, I look at every conversation with my clients with first understanding what's important to them, you know, understanding their timelines, and then creating a path. And if it is investing, perfect. But it really should just start with just saving, right? You know, too often we don't have at least the necessary money to have in reserves for saving. And I think that's an area where whether you're trying to run your business or investing in another business, if you don't have savings and something comes up, something's got to give. And you don't want to give up on your business, but you also don't want to give up on the investing as well. And so having savings creates a space where you can maintain whatever you set yourself out to do.
And I'm sure majority probably of your clients are older individuals. Is that accurate?
You know, fortunately, you know, both Cam and I, we grew up in Prince George's County, Maryland, one of the wealthiest black counties in the country. And so a lot of my peer group, people that look just like us, are doing extremely well. So we're getting more and more younger clients coming through the door. And so we have a mixture of clients, but I would say a lot of them are in their 30s, 40s, and perhaps even 50 at this moment.
So what would you say to the 20-something-year-old that's, you know, they're making decent money or they're coming into some decent money right now? And again, I'll use myself as an example. I just couldn't understand waiting 10 years to see my money. I'm just being honest. That was where I was at with it. Like, you know, you put your money here and then in 10 years the stock flips. I just didn't understand that part. And obviously now that 10 years happens like this, you don't realize how fast 10 years can go. Now you're like, well, I wish I would have did that 10 years ago. And now you're here. What do you say to that 20-year-old that maybe they have a decent job and they're making a little bit on the side and maybe they have a $500, $1,000 a month that they could put somewhere? What would you say to convince them that possibly, and do you feel that possibly investing into a stock market or these other vessels versus, hey, I got a little bit extra cash, I want to start a clothing brand or I want to start this? What would you say to that 20-something-year-old?
Again, you know, finance is personal, right? And so if you're in your 20s and you're engaged and you want to get married, well, maybe saving that money to support that goal, that dream is important to you, right? But what I would say, Cam, is I don't think you have to have one or the other, right? I think in your 20s, you should be about building good systems, you know, discipline, right? If you can even just put that money away into a savings account where you're not having to touch it, that's a system, right? Too often with a lot of my clients, they fail to realize that they are already investing because they work for a company and their money is going into their retirement account. And so I try to bring that into light to show them that you're already doing it. And so we're now just going to do it with intention. The intention is identifying what do you want your money to look like in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And once you align those intentional investing, it makes it clearer for that individual. But again, it's just a matter of what is important to the person. But I would say that the opportunity to either have your money sitting in the bank or under the mattress in comparison to what historically investing in other major large companies have been doing for you, it's night and day. And so I'm really encouraging and hoping more individuals see that and are encouraged to at least explore it.
Let's give a tangible example, right? If you've been interested at all in the stock market, let's just use an example of like an NVIDIA. What what has NVIDIA stock done over the last 5 years? Keenan might know the answer too. What has it done over the last 5 years? Just for $1. If I would have invested $1,000 in NVIDIA 5 years ago, where is the stock at now?
Okay, so you've led today with the idea of being transparent, right? So 5 years ago, probably didn't even know NVIDIA the same way my wife knows it because she's in IT. But we decided that during the pandemic, it was a company that made sense. So let's say we put 15 into it, 15,000 into it. That same investment is worth over $250 today.
$250,000 off a $15,000 potential investment.
Correct. And so, again, it isn't a matter of saying, hey, we had this crystal ball, we knew it was going to happen, right? It's just the power of investing and compounding. And that company happens to be the largest U.S.-based company in the world. You know, that led to its enormous run. But yeah, that same 15,000 is about 250 today.
So if we break that down to a more reasonable amount of money for somebody, maybe they don't have 15,000. I said can't use the word I don't know. So somebody tell me what's the times multiple on 15 to 250. Anybody can show me that right quick. 5
years on that company is probably...
That's more than 10 times. What is it? 16 times your money. So if you put $1,000 in, you would have made 16,000.
Correct. And again, with investing, your dollar, when it doubles, is 2. When it doubles again, it's 4. So that's kind of the impact of it, right? But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that when you sit back and you think about, like you said, time is moving. 10 years, 5 years moved fast during the pandemic. And for us and my family, it was just, we already had the pedigree from the past of investing. And so this was just another pick that happened to play out. But again, investing isn't always straight line. It's not that easy, right? I've bought things that I've lost. I've taken on courses from individuals that I thought would be a good opportunity and haven't panned out. But that starts with understanding myself, but then ultimately reading and learning, right? Learning about these things in advance. I see a lot of individuals now, I was looking at it today on the TV, that there's a high degree of young folks being our age, maybe and younger, that are seeking out investment for the purpose of making income. So you guys hear things like, Forex trading and buying options and these different investment tools. I'm not here to suggest that those aren't good avenues to explore, but if you're exploring it blindly by not listening or reading up on it for yourself, it can lead to a bad place, right? And so I really encourage everyone to just pick up a book on finance, personal financing. It really will change how you approach life, and I think that that's where you start with.
So staying on that note, because I agree with that. I remember when I first started photography, me and my dad, we used to butt heads because he would always be like, you need to learn the craft. And I just wanted to jump in and just do it. And then now I'm teaching people to learn the craft. Like, it's the same thing. So in finance or anything we want to get into, how does someone in this room, where do they go to first to get their firsthand knowledge of that? Maybe they've never seen money managed correctly in their household. Maybe they haven't had examples of it. Where are some suggestions you think they go? I heard you mentioned a few books that you're reading, but are there any online platforms or educational services that you felt have been impactful for you in your journey?
So my career has been built on working for some of the largest banks, and I recognize that banks in some communities aren't a perfect alignment, right? But I really believe in nonprofit work, and so a lot of great nonprofits are out there. When I came up, I was in D.C. in one of the nonprofits, Operation Hope. That was a really good one for me, right? And so if you are interested in learning about finance from a safe place, a lot of your good nonprofits locally can be a great starting place to just get the information. And then you take it a step further, right? You ask, well, what are you consuming? And those are the books that we talk about. But yeah, I would say start there, work at the nonprofit level, find good individuals that have an example and a pedigree and a background of doing good work, and then build from there.
I love that. So as you all know, this is Yesterday's Tomorrow. We are a crowd-led conference. So I want to make sure that it's just not me asking my brother questions. I can talk to him any day, but I want to make sure that you all have the floor. Does anybody have any questions that they want to ask about money, finance, anything that you have a financial advisor who charges a lot of money per hour to talk to him up here? Anybody got any questions? You got one, Keenan?
What up, Rob?
Yeah.
I think the question that I have, I know probably for others as well. I know when I first started investing, when do you feel like it's a great time to start? Like, do you have to have the most money to do it? Like, I feel like people get discouraged about yo, I ain't got enough to start, and is it gonna do this or so? That would kind of be one of my questions.
Yeah, no, I mean, a lot of my clients, they start with just $250 a month, right? Just making some simple transfers and then knowing what you want to invest in. And so I think, again, going back to this concept of being personal, right? So if you have things already in order, you have a place to stay, you're doing this for your family, and then you have what we call discretionary, meaning money above and beyond your living needs, right? I think that is where we can start opening up the conversation. But yeah, a lot of my clients, it's simple as $250 a month, $500 a month, and we do simple buying. It's called dollar cost averaging, meaning you buy a little bit every single month, and that will allow for you, because this year it could be 500, next year it could be a little bit more, and then we compound from there.
My second question is, when you're, now that you started investing, I know you talking to people and you helping them put their money where they need to go. What would be some companies or stocks that people could get started in? Like, give me 3. I ain't gonna how you go too crazy, but
what's really unique about the space that I play in, and I'm proud of this statement, is that as a licensed advisor, we have to be very mindful about the advice that we give, not because we don't want to give it to any one person, right? But because it has weight, right? We're regulated by agencies that will take something out of context and hold you to it. But if I'm going to tell anyone today to consider investing, it wouldn't be the specific company, but it would be the concept of buying a specific index. An index is just one investment that also owns multiple companies. So whether you buy the S&P 500 or you buy NASDAQ. QQQ is a good one, right? So I would say if you're just getting started, buying an index that has a long track record of success is where I would start. Once you have your index baked in and you have a decent amount of money in that index, then you can look at those individual companies that you know, like, and trust. And that will allow for your baseline return to be upsized. So instead of getting an average of 10, maybe you're now getting 13 or 14 because you picked a NVIDIA or you picked a Google, right? Technology is leading this country right now, this world, to be honest. And so a lot of good investing in technology space at the highest level, meaning the best company. You're not looking at the 5th best company in the sector. You're looking at the best company. That's where you get the most leverage.
All right. Thank you today, Rob.
No problem. Appreciate it.
My question is about once you've seen a return on a potential investment, what's the best way to, I guess, exit that investment without,
taxes?
I was going to say Father Time. What's his name? Uncle
Sam?
Uncle Sam. Father Time is crazy. Redact that. Uncle Sam, you see we don't get along that well.
Yeah.
But yeah, how can you exit that investment? I know there's some ways in real estate, but is there any advice that you could give to exit that without capital gains?
100%. So, conceptually speaking, when you hear, your Jay-Z's and these big time mega, even Elon, right? When he bought, Twitter at the time, he didn't have to sell his stock. He leveraged it, right? Loan against it. These are things that are practical for all of us. Your investment can grow, and once it reaches a certain number, you can borrow against your own money at very, very low rates. So when you mentioned that as a business owner, wanting to, pour back into your business, right? This is what I tell Cam all the time. You can grow your money. It doesn't mean that you don't have access to it anymore because you invested it. It's actually increasing more leverage for you because you are invested over here. And now that I need a loan, I just borrowed from my money recently. I go get the money, I use it, and then I pay it back, right? And so you can sell your investments, right, with taxes in mind, but oftentimes we teach clients, hold your investment for a long, long, long time. When I'm no longer here, my kids will inherit that portfolio, and they don't have to sell it, right, technically speaking, because they could leverage it again. And so, yeah, I would say that, if you need access for whatever reason, there's a lot of ways of doing it that isn't just sale. No problem.
Yeah, and even to piggyback, because I think that was something that I struggled understanding, right? You're telling me to put money over here, put money over here. And my first thought is, okay, when it gets to this amount, I'm going to sell it. And then, so what you're basically saying is, even if, let's say for a year, I'm just doing basic math, I put $1,000 a month into NVIDIA, and NVIDIA is making 10%, let's say, of my money back. So I put $1,000 a month. After a year, I have $12,000 in there. You're saying that there's institutions that will let me borrow $6,000 at, let's say, 3%, leaving the 12 in there to continue to make 10%.
Facts.
Without me taking the 12 and now no longer making percent. So technically I'm going to make more, even though I'm borrowing the money or using the money, I'm paying a lower interest rate than I'm making on the 12. So in a certain sense, I'm borrowing house money in a certain sense.
And again, with the right investments, yes, the company that holds your portfolio, whether it's Fidelity, Morgan Stanley, Ameriprise, my company, yes, once that money is created, you can oftentimes borrow at least half of that dollar, half.
And then for his question, if I was to sell it at 12, I would then pay what's called capital gains, which means I have to pay taxes on it.
Yes, you will pay taxes traditionally up to about 15 to 20%, but yes.
So 20% of it, once I try to pull, is already owed to Uncle Sam.
Gone.
If I borrow it, I don't pay money on the loan.
You don't.
There's no taxes on the loan. Just another advice. So it's literally zero money gone. And this is truly how they are shielding their money and moving their money around.
100%. I mean, again, that's my understanding of it, which is documented as well. But yes, the spread between earning 10, paying 3, and a loan is 7. It's still up 7%, which in my mind, that's good money still.
So these are the things that you guys hear about when they say, oh, these rich people don't pay taxes or they don't pay that. It's because they're living off of loans of their own money, so their income is $0, but they loaned from themselves $5 million that year. And the money stays in the account, flipping. It gets complex, but it also gets very simple at the same time. Anybody else have a question? Don't be scared.
We have
Come
one
on.
more back here.
Hey, what's going on, y'all? How y'all doing today? So my name is Sean. I'm first generation Caribbean. My entire family, including my siblings, are from Jamaica. So that right there they came here on unorthodoxly, right? So they made terrible spending decisions and stuff like that has trickled over into my life, going into college, credit card debt, and so forth. Now that I'm out and I self-educated myself on multiple things, I'm now able to invest into certain things like Roth IRAs and so forth. But now stepping into that journey, right, in my mind, I'm like, I want to have multiple Roth IRA accounts, whether it's for traveling, emergency fund, or just to, just live life in general. Now, the question that comes up with me doing that is, am I potentially taking money out of my pocket, right? Because if I have multiple accounts, instead of just investing into one specific thing, am I potentially taking money away from me versus,
I get it. Yeah, I mean, again, going back to this personal finance thing is really, really personal. So when I think about individuals that have multiple of the same account, there's this concept of compounding. And so if you're spreading that dollar out amongst 10, you're not getting that same impact. You may still get a 10% return, but there's a threshold of dollar accumulation. Like once you get to a certain number where that double is really big, right? And so I'm all about consolidation, trying to get money under one umbrella for the same type of purpose. But it's good to have sub-accounts for goals, right? I think that goes back to a lot of these banks allow you to have a savings account with multiple goal tiers. And so I'm okay with that. But just when it comes to investing, consolidation may give you a better return when you think about it long term.
Right. Cool.
Any other questions in the audience? All right, cool. Well, y'all are financial geniuses. I love it. One of the things I want to end with is this. In honor, obviously, this conference is dedicated in honor of Martin Luther King, and there's actually been a story out there that says the real reason why he became a threat to America was less about the civil rights speaking, but more about his new calling for financial independence and literacy of black individuals. And that's what actually scared those who were opposed to him, was the idea of empowering that many black Americans about financial literacy and things that they can do. For everyone in the room that might just be scared or don't even know where to first start, let's leave them with an actionable thing that they can do today that would put them light years ahead of where they were at tomorrow. What's one thing you would challenge the room to do to just get started?
Yeah, no, I think for a lot of us, we're doing really good things to begin with, right? And I think that oftentimes get overlooked. I sit down with a lot of couples and families, and when we create this plan for them, and then I ask them, well, look, I've seen everything you've shown me, your house, your retirement accounts, your debt. Did you know that you are a millionaire? And oftentimes, it doesn't register for them because they never put a plan together, right? So let's start with just simply going home and just writing down, what do you have, that is your assets, versus what do you owe, your liabilities. That is going to make it tangible because you're going to see it. It's going to be on paper. It's what we do every day for our clients. We create a plan for them. But the plan only starts with understanding what you have, right? Once you understand what I have on one side versus the other, now you can start to think about, okay, well, how do I shift resources from one side to improve the other side, whether it's paying off a student loan or a credit card, right? Taking that approach with writing down your plan, writing down your resources, and aligning that with, a book, a financial literacy book, whether that is, the one book I like is The Psychology of Money. Morgan Housel is another one. He does that one. But any one of these top-tier financial books, you pair that with your own understanding of what's on the left side, what's on the right side, I think that will give you a great blueprint to figure out what I need to do next.
Love that. Y'all give it up for my big brother, man.